Welcome back, and thank you for joining us. For our interview today, we have Mayor of the City of Andalusia, Mayor Earl Johnson, and we have an engineer over there with CD&G firm, Brother Tim Ramsden. Good
Hello.
to have you, Tim.
Good to be
Mayor,
here.
good to have you here today. We had a little council meeting, the big council meeting about a lot of things, but the main thing was the budget. Y'all passed a wonderful budget last night, didn't you?
Well, we've been working really hard on this budget, Bob, for several months. So we start way back in the summer working on the budget. The city is on the state fiscal year, which starts on the first day of October and goes through the 30th day of September. And so we have to adopt a new budget, hopefully by the last day of September. This year we stretched it just a little bit and went 5 days over. But yes, we adopted the fiscal year 16 budget last night.
Yeah, I know. I saw you put, what, 1.4 in capital, where you just set that aside in case you need a new something.
Well, that's right, which we very rarely are able to do that. In the past, we've practically been able, as a practical matter, rarely been able to put money aside for capital investments in the budget. We had to take that as we go. This year, we're fortunate that we think we're in such good fiscal shape that we're able to do that. Having said that, we kept our operating budget portion basically bare boned. It's basically the same it was last year. It's up 3%. The operating expenses are up only 3% over last year.
And considering health costs and medical costs, that's unbelievable, really.
Well, it is. We had an 8% increase in our portion of the premium for our employees for their health insurance. Those who take the health insurance group policy through the city. We also have about a 3% annual increase in salaries and wages across the board for city employees, and that's where that was the increase in our operating budget, was basically on those kinds of things that we really don't have any control over.
Well, you know, back in the past, they didn't have that 3% built in, and you had people that had worked here, like the trash pickup people.
Right.
You don't want to replace them every day. You got people that have been working for you for 20 years, and they know the route. You don't have to call them and tell them to get up. They're ready to go.
That's right. Well, that's right, and everybody that works for the city has a necessary job, an important job. And we want to get the best people we can for those jobs, and so we try to pay them fairly. And that means that every year they can count on a minimum of a 3% increase in their pay. In other words, even if they don't change positions, their pay is going to increase by 3% for 16 years. And then after 16 years, it's not automatic, it's up to the council, but we've never failed to pass that 3% along to, say, folks have been working for us for 20 years. We give them a 3% increase as well.
Is it a state law to keep the contingency, the emergency fund?
It is not. For a long time we thought that it was. We researched that. It's good business.
Oh, it's great business.
It's good business to keep a contingency fund for unknowns, because there are things that come up during the year that you can't anticipate. A budget is, as you know, is a good guess on what's going to happen in the future with respect to revenues and respect to expenses. And you're going to have things that's going to happen on both sides of that equation that you can't anticipate. So you put in, on the expense side, you always want to put in a contingency fee for things you can't anticipate. And we got about $500,000 in our contingency fee this year.
That's wonderful.
Fund.
And another thing, I wonder, nationwide, how many small cities and towns actually have a budget where their expenses is less than their revenue? Y'all did a good job keeping it below the revenue by a pretty good margin, actually.
Well, it's actually about $2 million.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good margin.
Yeah, that's a huge margin. We're very fortunate that we're in a position to do that again. We've been saying all along that we were getting our fiscal house in order, and this is evidence of that.
Well, I noticed you talked about Christmas in 2015,
right.
And you know, we were talking about, you know, the chamber said, we were talking about this morning on our show, the chamber said there were 50,000 people here, but I said there's another 100,000 people that drove by, even on 18-wheelers, who live in Kansas. They went back and says, you ain't gonna believe this little town, buddy, and now you're buying a choo-choo train.
Well, I think that last year, the Candyland on the Square was
Wow.
probably the most popular single thing, maybe ever in the city of Andalusia.
Wow.
And I give all the credit to Chrissy Duffy, our executive director of the chamber. She came up with the idea, brought it to us, brought it to the city council, and we bought into it and assumed some of the financial responsibility, not all of it
No.
by far, because a lot of the local merchants, a lot of the local business people built playhouses and made contributions to make that work.
They did a good job too, let me tell you.
This year, we're going to expand that, and we're going to still have Candyland on the Square. We'll still have snow on the Square. But this year, we're going to move an additional venue down on the lot between City Hall and Springdale. And on that, we're going to have a skating rink, ice skating rink.
Wow. In Andalusia, Alabama, we have an ice skating rink. It's going to snow, and we're going to be able to ice skate in Andalusia. That's unbelievable.
Now, in all honesty, it's not real ice. It's like the snow. It is a man-made ice or man-made snow. But we'll have an outside skating rink. We will have 8 more toy houses, playhouses down there, and we will have a really neat Toyland Christmas train for the children to ride. And they'll be able to ride that all around City Hall, around Springdale. We'll not have to get out on the streets, so it'll be a safe place for them.
They'll have the most fun.
And we're going to have more events than we had last year. There'll be more activity than there was last year. So it's really going to be big, exciting, I think. And I made this statement last night that, you know, that the route that we're going will soon be known as the Christmas city of Alabama. And I don't think there's any question that we're closing in on that.
It's just a privilege to live in a happy place. Yeah. Happiness is a privilege.
It is.
That's what I was thinking today.
It's true.
My thought for today.
That's a good thought, because a lot of places are not happy places.
No, this is a happy place.
And Andalusia is, and it's because of the attitude of our people and the hard work that we put into the things that we do. It doesn't have anything to do with me. It has to do with the people.
Right.
And I'm just happy to be a part of it.
Well, Mayor, you know, you're about to embark on one of the largest infrastructure and road tests that I've been here just a few years, but I'm saying in our history of our town, this is going to be one of the largest projects, South 39th Street. It's huge. What's underneath those roads is unbelievable, isn't it? Well, you got Brother Tim here.
Got Tim Ramsden here with CDG is going to talk to us about that. I get a lot of questions every day. Why aren't you working on South 39th? What's happened to South 39th? What's going on with that? And it's a complicated, complex issue, and that's the reason we asked Tim to come, because he's the engineer in charge of this project, and he knows a lot more about the details of it than I do. And we asked him to come and kind of bring us up to speed on where we are on South 39th Street, and hopefully the people will understand that it's not sitting still. We're moving forward, but there are a lot of technical reasons why we can't get started yet.
Well, Tim, have you finished your survey of all the infrastructure?
Yeah, that's been done for nearly 2 years.
Okay.
This project is part of the A-TRIP program that comes from DOT. That is funded by the feds. Okay, so we have to comply with federal regulations, and through this process, DOT has learned some lessons that have slowed the program down. Okay, just trying to comply with their regulations.
Right.
So that's kind of complicated things just from that perspective. Okay, we actually started the project at the start of 13, and it's been that long. We submitted plans at the end of 13, and it was a full set of plans. It was complete. It sat with DOT for a while, and they reviewed it, and then decided that they wanted to make some changes to the project. We had originally said it was going to be a 4-lane road with turn lanes, and then it ended up being now it will be a 3-lane road.
Okay.
Over the last few years, it's become quite evident that 3-lane roads in urban areas work better than a 4-lane.
Well, how about that? Who would have thought that?
Yeah, well, there are reasons behind that.
Yeah.
When you've got a 4-lane like we have now, there's a lot more the car cannot get out of the way in that turning movement.
Right.
So in a 3-lane, there is a protection for those
Yeah,
cars.
they move out of the way.
Yeah, exactly. So there are reasons why it does make sense. At first blush, it really doesn't seem that way, but it does make a lot of sense. So they wanted to go back and change those items. Well, going back and changing alignments and starting all over again takes time. They also wanted us to look at realigning Moore Road. Okay, that intersection there has never been good.
No, it hasn't.
The turn right is a bad movement. Again, it compounds safety issues because the car has got to slow down so much and make that turning movement.
Right.
Nowhere for a car to go. So we actually worked with Dr. Tisdale and finally acquired his property so that we can actually bring that intersection in at 90 degrees.
Oh, really?
Can I break in there for
That's something that is unbelievable, really.
Yeah.
Dr. Billy Tisdale deserves a great deal of credit. He made that donation to the city for no money. I mean,
Really?
because he wants that. He understands that that's a dangerous intersection there. He also recognizes and understands that a lot of people are going through there taking their kids to school or bringing them home,
Right.
and that turn needs to be made more safe than it is. And he voluntarily donated the property on the edge of his property there,
Right.
so that turn lane could be made and straighten up that intersection and make it a 90-degree turn instead of a 100 and something degree.
It's
turn.
amazing what you can do when you work with property owners and municipalities and engineers to make the town better. It's amazing.
Well, I of course wrote Dr. Tisdale a thank you note on that, but I've been waiting for an opportunity to say publicly and let people know publicly that he did that and how thankful we are that he did do it, because if he had not, we wouldn't have been able to straighten up that intersection. It would remain that way from now on, I suppose.
Yeah, and that's a big improvement. There's a conflict there between where Moore Road comes in and then going across to Snowden.
Snowden Drive, right.
So that will be wider now.
That'll be
There's
great.
more room for storage, for turning, makes the intersection safer. It was the right thing to do. But again, that
What
takes
about,
time.
do y'all plan for like a 50-year flood like that happened in South Carolina? Because there's a lot of water that goes to Bay Branch right there. There's a
There
bunch
is.
of water, a lot of weight.
There is. That culvert will stay as it is.
Okay.
It is sufficient for the flow.
Okay.
The other issues that have come up with the ATRIP program is the environmental impacts that we usually don't have to deal with when it's a state project. If you remember River Fall Street, that project went very quickly. We were already in construction in 5 or 6 months, I think, 7 months. Obviously, this has been a lot longer. And the reason is because we're now having to comply with federal regulations. And the big key to these projects is that is dramatically different than anything that we've ever encountered is the project is really DOT's project. It is not the City of Andalusia's project. Okay. So everything has to be approved by DOT, and they actually control how the project is let or goes to bid.
Is that a state highway? Or
It is not a state highway, but because it's got federal money in it, the DOT decided that they wanted to control how the projects were designed and how they were let.
That's okay.
So, but that has lengthened this project out tremendously, okay? And we've tried and tried and tried to move that quicker. I've tried, the mayor has tried. We just cannot do that. We are stuck with what DOT will allow us to do.
It's almost hard to imagine what River Falls Street looked like now.
Yes.
But compare the two before and after picture.
Yeah.
You got an extreme change to a complete quadrant of our town, of our city.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that property's worth money now, and because it's got a beautiful. Remember when you used to have to hit a bump every few minutes? I mean, it was tough.
Yeah.
Well,
Plus, you fixed all the infrastructure.
Yeah, all the infrastructure will be repaired similarly as it was on River Falls Street. All the underground utilities will be replaced or repaired to make like new. So it's a big job in the sense that not only you're dealing with a street and sidewalks and curbs and that sort of stuff, but you're also dealing with everything that's under the street. And that's one of the oldest streets in Andalusia. So there's stuff on there, we don't know really what it is. We won't know until the thing gets opened up sometimes.
Well, you remember when Opal came and all the trees were down, and then, you know, when you repaired them, you put them underground.
Right.
And what a difference. See, that's a hospital out there, for goodness sakes. You want to make sure they have electricity,
Yep.
you know?
Yep.
Yeah. As the mayor said, it's going to be very similar to River Falls Street. We didn't encounter too many surprises. We know what downtown old city streets look like,
Right.
but there's always some surprises. We've done a lot of due diligence out there. We've done a lot of subsurface exploration to see what the material's like. We learned some lessons off River Falls Street. You know, traditionally some of the base material in Andalusia is not that great. Now that road, to complicate it, is actually a concrete street.
Yeah.
That was then widened. So there's two different sections to it. You know, really, it would have been a waste of money to go in and resurface it. We could have definitely applied for that, got it funded quicker or easier, and then got it to construction quicker. But it would look, you know, there'd be potholes in it, or there'd be you know, patches for utilities next week. So that would be a waste.
What a
of
wonderful
money.
thing to have a street that you don't have to dig up the next week.
So we're going to dig it up, replace everything, and it will be exactly like River Falls Street. And you know, River Falls Street's, you know, no problems with the River Falls Street. It's been great since we did it, and this one's going to look very
You
similar.
see people walking on it all the time. What about the aesthetics? You gonna have sidewalk or
We will.
tree planting and stuff?
We
Beautification?
will. We will. Another thing that has been difficult with this program is what will DOT and the feds actually allow us to do? What will they reimburse us to do?
Right.
So sidewalks are in the plan. They go to Moore Road. You know, I think the intent there is to carry those on, if we could, in this project or in the future, to the bypass. But we have still not been told by DOT yet if that's approved. There is what we call a scoping document has to be done with these programs, and we have now submitted the third time, and each time they want to change something and what's eligible and what's not eligible. So it's been a task trying to push it through, and that's really why the delay is there. Plans are done. Plans are already in, waiting for review. We're just a little bit at their mercy at this point.
You think it'll actually happen next year sometime?
Yeah, right now it is actually scheduled to be in what we call the letting, where it's bid, actually in February of this coming year. As long as DOT sticks to their timeline, we can. As well, this program with A-Trip has become a lot bigger than what DOT originally expected. It was supposed to be about a $900 million kind of project,
Right.
Alabama-wide. It's now gone over that, that billion mark. So they're really looking at money and how money needs to flow. And that's slowed things down a little bit as well. There's not that many contractors to be able to do the work.
Well, I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Because that's major work there. We're
Exactly.
talking about major. It's
Yeah.
the heartbeat. That's the heartbeat of our town, actually.
Yeah.
River Falls, Church Street, East 3 Notch, and South 3 Notch. That's what defines us.
Yeah.
And there's quite a few cars that go to the grammar school and the hospital every day.
Definitely. DOT realized that if they were going to try and, the governor really wanted all this to be done in that first term, and really quicker than that first term. But they've realized that the price of the project was going up and up and up because there's not enough contractors to do it. Anytime you want to do something faster, it's going to cost you more money. So they've kind of stretched it out a little bit.
Right.
So there's multiple reasons why we're caught in a situation where we did not want to be in. We had originally planned that we would already be in construction and about finished by now.
Will they put new wastewater lines down?
Everything will be replaced inside the right of way.
Wastewater and
Sewer line will be replaced.
line?
It will go back in the road,
Right.
But the water lines will not. The water lines, just like we do on River Falls Street, will be outside the road envelope.
Okay.
There, if anything.
That's
needs to
good.
be
So
done
when
on
somebody wants to build a house, you ain't got to
Yeah.
tear up the road.
Exactly.
That's
Or
great.
if you've got a problem, you're not tearing up the road.
Right.
So we try and get the utilities out as much as we can. On a city street like that, it's about impossible to do that with sewer. We would like to, but we just cannot physically make that work. But water and sewer will be replaced. Gas will be replaced. The power will obviously be moved. Storm drainage will be, down both sides. It will look like River Falls Street, but quite a bit bigger.
Well, that ought to take us on that through our history.
Well, I don't know about you two, but
our grandchildren have to worry about the next one.
Yeah, Tim says speak for yourself on
Yeah,
that.
I'll speak for, well, I am speaking for myself. Last night we had the National Night Out,
Yeah.
and there were the next generation of Andalusia was out there, and the police did this fantastic job. But you never saw so many young people that really. That was really a good night out. It was such a beautiful night.
Yeah.
That's another part. That was so positive for the chief of police to get out there and do the nine-eye dance too.
Yeah, Sylvia and I had our little 3-year-old grandson. We have him down here with us this week, and he just had a ball out there. We all did. We enjoyed it very much.
Well, did we cover everything there?
I think so. Just kind of put a ribbon around what Tim is saying is that for those of you who have questions about where we are with South 3 Knott Street, we're still bumping on it, trying to make it move forward. It's still, again, it's kind of out of our control. State DOT is really in control of that, but we hope, we got our fingers crossed, that we'll have a bid letting on that in February, which means you probably should see some work starting out in the summer of next year on that road.
That'd be great. Well, it's great having Tim Ramsden from CDNG, and y'all tell them about your business. Y'all have a huge amount of employees out there.
Company-wide, yeah, we have around 130.
That's what I thought. You see your trucks everywhere.
Yeah, we're all over the state. We've got offices in Dothan, Hoover, Auburn, Albertville, Huntsville. So yeah, we're all over the place. Yeah, so I'm proud to be part of it.
Yeah, we're glad to have you in Andalusia.
Andalusia's our headquarters office, so that's
Andalusia will always be. We've talked about moving into the Hoover office and putting it somewhere a little bit more metropolitan, but no, it will stay here.
Andalusia's blessed to have the Southeast Alabama Gas District office here. It could be in Dothan or Enterprise, easy.
Good.
And then Power South, and Cumberland Electric, and CDNG. And to have these people have their anchor in this town, it brings people that actually make money that can afford to buy a house and buy, goods and services. It's wonderful, isn't it, Mayor?
Absolutely.
I mean, this town, that makes our town.
It makes Andalusia special. Sure does.
Well, it's a privilege to be happy and to live in a happy place. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Tim.
Thanks.
Good to have you with us.
Yes, sir.